The mill race was loud that night. Aldrich heard it the way he always did on his watch. A steady, cold voice running beneath the quiet of Heron's Ford, grinding the dark the same way that ground the grain. He walked the riverside with his lantern low, checking the sluice gate, checking the rope on the barge post, not thinking much. He had done this watch for 11 years and had learned the particular sound of everything that belonged to the river. What he heard just past the third sluice did not belong. He held the lantern out and saw her in the shallows, a large shape face down in 6 inches of water, one green hand gripping the bank grass, the rest of her too heavy or too tired to pull free. An orc woman. Her leather armor was torn at the left shoulder, dark with something that was not river water. Her braids were undone and fanned across the current. She was breathing. He could see the shudder of her back, but barely. Aldrich set his lantern on a dry stone, waded into his knees, and got his hands under her arms. She was heavy. He was not a small man, but it took him 3 long pulls to get her clear of the water and up onto the muddy bank. She came to enough to drag one leg under herself, and that helped. He sat her against the cut grass slope and looked at her shoulder. The wound was a cut, not a bite, something with a blade, and it had been bleeding long enough to soak through the leather and crust along the edge. Bad but closeable, if he was quick. He did not ask himself why she was there or who had done it. He picked up his lantern and said, "Can you walk at all?" She looked at him with one eye. The other was still half closed from the cold. "Where?" she said. Just the one word, low and careful. "My grain storehouse. 20 steps, there's dry straw, and I have linen and a needle." She studied him for a long moment. Then she got her legs under herself and stood, which took more out of her than she wanted to show. 20 steps. He walked beside her and she did not fall. He had cleaned and closed wounds before. A miller's life had its share of rope burns and blade slips and the occasional accident with the millstone gear. And he worked steadily, without commentary, knotting the linen tight. She sat on a feed sack and held herself still and made no sound he did not expect. When he finished, he handed her the water flask and she drank half of it and he was glad. "The town turned you away," he said. "Not a question. Every door." She handed the flask back. "They said I had no business here." "You had business here, then." "Aye." She looked at him straight. "The Voraclan sends a rider each 7 years to renew the peace treaty oath with Heron's Ford. We have done it for 4 generations. I was the rider." Aldrich nodded slowly. He had heard of that treaty in the way that a man hears of old things, vaguely, as a piece of background that explained why no raid had come to the valley in living memory. He had never thought about who carried the oath. "Someone knew you were coming," he said. "Someone did." Her jaw tightened. 3 men in the Stag's Crossing Pass. They had my description. I went into the river to lose them, and the current brought me here. Are they still looking? They will be. He thought about that for a moment, then nodded once and went to the storehouse door. He dropped the bar across it, a heavy oak beam that he had never once needed in 11 years, and came back and sat across from her on the grain chest. "Then we wait till dawn," he said. "The Fordstown watch makes its last pass at the second bell. After that, it's only my walk. No one else comes this side of the mill until the bread bakers send their apprentice at sunup." She was watching him with an expression he could not quite name, not suspicion. Something older than that, and more careful. "You don't ask anything," she said. "I figure you'll tell me what matters." For a time, neither of them spoke. The mill race ran on outside. The lantern put a warm pool of light between them, and the straw smelled of dry summer even in the cold of the night. And Aldrich was aware that this was a strange and particular hour, one of those hours that sits outside the ordinary run of things and will not be repeated. She told him her name was Vora, that she was a warband lieutenant, but that this errand belonged to her by right of birth, as it had belonged to her mother and her grandmother before her. The peace treaty oath was not a document. It was a spoken promise renewed in person, face to face, between the clan's chosen rider and the town's keeper of records. "If I don't make the renewal before the moon is full," she said, "the oath lapses. It has never lapsed, and if it lapses, the clan elders decide what that means." She said it without drama, but he heard the weight of it. He thought about the valley. He thought about 4 generations of untroubled harvest. He thought about the bread baker's apprentice who would come at sunup with no idea what any of this meant. "I'll get you to the records keeper in the morning," he said. She looked at him the way she had looked at him on the riverbank, like she was calculating something and kept arriving at an answer she hadn't expected. "Why?" she said. He considered that. "The valley's been peaceful my whole life, seems worth keeping." The second bell rang somewhere in the town. Not long after, there was a knock at the storehouse door, 3 sharp raps, not the bread baker's knock, too confident for that. A man's voice, "Miller, Miller, open up. We're looking for something that came out of the river." Aldrich glanced at Vaura. She had gone very still. He went to the door and spoke through it without opening. River's been running high all night. Pulled a lot of branches through the mill race. Nothing else. We have reason to believe an orc woman came through this part of the bank. I've been on watch since the first bell. Nothing but the river. A pause. Voices low, one disagreeing with another. Then, if you see anything, you'll report to the town watch. I will, said Aldrich. Footsteps receded. He came back and sat down. Vora let out a long breath. You're a poor liar, she said. I didn't lie. I said nothing came out of the river. You came out of the river. I pulled you out. That's different. She was quiet for a moment. Then something changed in her face. Not a smile exactly, but close to one, and warmer than anything the lantern was doing. You're going to be trouble, she said. Just a miller, he said. They talked through the remaining hours. She asked about the mill, and he told her. She told him about the foothills her clan kept, about the long winters and the summer trade routes, and the way the treaty was made, 4 generations back by a clan elder and a town father who had both been tired of burying people over a river crossing. Simple as that. Tired of it. He had not talked at this length to anyone in a long time. He was not a man who needed to, generally. But the night was long and the lantern was warm, and she was easy to talk to. Now that she had decided to trust him, in the way that very direct people are easy once the wariness drops. Toward the gray pre-dawn, she slept against the grain sacks, sitting upright. He kept his watch beside the door. He heard them before he saw them. The sound of many horses moving carefully, trying to be quiet, which horses are not built to be. He lifted the bar and stepped outside into the first cold light. They were across the near field, a war band of perhaps 30, in their riding leathers, no weapons drawn. At the front, a scarred veteran on a gray horse raised one hand, and the whole company halted. They had been searching all night, that was clear from their faces. The scarred one looked at him with the look of a man who has run out of hope and is now trying something he doesn't expect to work. Have you seen, he began. She's here, said Aldrich. She's all right. Give me a moment. He went back in and put his hand lightly on the storehouse wall rather than touch her. She woke at the sound. Your war band, he said. They're in the field. Vara was on her feet before he finished the sentence. She walked out into the thin morning light, and he heard the change in the war band the way you hear a change in the river. A collective sound, not words. The sound of 30 people who have been afraid, letting the fear out all at once. The scarred veteran said something in the clan tongue that Aldrich did not speak, and Vara answered, and there was a long exchange, and she pointed back at the storehouse, at him. Then she turned and looked at him, and the morning light was just enough to show the expression on her face. Come here, she said. He walked out across the muddy bank. The whole war band was watching him. Vora spoke to the veteran, who reached inside his coat and brought out a small object on a leather cord, a flat piece of old river iron, worn smooth with a mark pressed into it that he did not recognize. The veteran handed it to Vara, who held it out to Aldrich. This is the clan's bond mark, she said. It means the Vara clan names you as one who kept the peace. If you carry it into the hills, any clan member will give you food and shelter and safe passage. And she paused. If you present it in Heron's Ford, to the records keeper, it doubles the weight of the oath renewal. It means the clan sent it freely, not under compulsion. He took it. It was heavier than it looked. The men who came after you, he said. My war band has their description now. Her voice was even. They will not trouble the valley again. He turned the bond mark over in his hands. The river ran on. In the town behind him, smoke was starting from the bread baker's chimney. What happens now, he said. With the treaty. I go to the records keeper at the first open hour and speak the renewal. The moon is 2 days off. We have time. She looked at him steadily. And in spring, when the trade road opens, the clan's first caravan comes through Heron's Ford, as it has always come. I ride at the front of it. A pause. I expect I'll need to check the mill race conditions for the crossing. He understood what she was saying, and what she was leaving unsaid, and he did not make it smaller by rushing to fill the space. The mill race runs fast in spring, he said. Best to have someone who knows it show you the safe line. Agreed, she said. The warband began to move, forming up around her, and she went with them, tall and straight, her wound dressed in his plain miller's linen, the peace treaty rider who would walk to the records keeper in an hour and speak 4 generations of good faith into the valley's keeping for another, 7 years. Aldrich stood at the storehouse door and watched them go, the bond mark in his hand still warm from hers. He had 11 years of quiet mornings. He was not sure this one was quiet, exactly, but it was the best one he could remember, and the day had only just begun, and somewhere ahead of it, the spring road was waiting, with a caravan and a warband lieutenant who had told him, in so many words, that she intended to come back. He went inside to see to the mill race. There was work to do, and he had always been a man who did his work. But he was smiling as he did it, which was newer, and which the morning light seemed to approve of.